I'm not going to reveal my name as I don't want people to trace this damn town again. So I'm going to come up with fake names for all individuals involved. Either way, I'm now sure that this has happened to plenty of kids before and since then. If I don't reveal a name, I'm sure as hell they can't track me. I hope. For now, I'll call myself M, and my friend in the story, J. Jay was one of my best friends growing up. We would do everything together. He and I grew up on the same street, went to the same school, and tried to do as much together as possible. He was one of the sweetest people I've ever known. And that's why this event and that night still fills me with so much rage and sadness. It was Halloween night, and I remember the whole day like it was yesterday. Although I wish I didn't. I was 12 and Jay was 13 at the time. Both of our birthdays were in October, so we'd always be excited about going up in number and feeling more mature and on our own on Halloween nights. This was finally the first night that both of our parents let us go trick-or-treating on our own. I know why now. But to us, it was a new sense of freedom that I felt, a freedom I wouldn't feel again after so many years. We finally are on our own now, aren't we, Em? Jay said in a leadership tone. I suppose so, I replied quietly. I had always been sort of scared of being on my own, but like I said before, the sense of freedom did feel good, so I wasn't going to complain. We went around the decorated streets with the lit up orange and yellow hues blinding us with spooky wonder. These streets were decorated like hell most years. It is the most festive town for Halloween I knew of, and honestly, it was confusing to me as a child when Christmas time would come around and not nearly as many places were decorated for the holiday spirit. It was almost as if Halloween was some kind of sacred holiday in this town. As Jay and I walked down the streets, I started noticing things not feeling exactly right. Any adults who were outside seemed to be staring directly at us, but they would always look away at their feet as soon as our gazes met. Some of them had the most uncanny of looks on their faces, like something was severely wrong, and it was. I noticed lights start to go out as soon as we approached to knock on the doors for candy, even though I thought to myself what kind of assholes would see kids approaching and turn their lights off on Halloween night. I adjusted my glasses to my face and looked down the street, and did see one house all the way at the end of it. It seemed to be the most decorated house on the entire block, and the brightest. Surely they wouldn't ignore us and deny us candy like that. I looked at the watch and noticed it was 11:30. This would have been our last stop for the night before heading back home. We had gotten a pretty good haul of sweets, so I wasn't upset. But this house called to us, with how festive it was for the season. They might have even been selling full chocolate bars or something. As we approached the house, though, I started hearing strange sounds, sobbing from inside the house. Not every house, but lots of them. The air felt still and tingled went down my spine. I turned to Jay. Jay, I'm actually not so sure about this house. This street is starting to freak me out a little. My young childhood stutter would always come back with a vengeance whenever I got scared. I'm not so sure about this, I repeated, tears starting to form in my eyes a little. I was nothing but a kid, so hearing others cry and feeling out in the open and so vulnerable like this made me tear up. Jay laid his hand on my shoulder. It's okay, Em, he reassured me. It's one more house. where we're gonna go and get candy, and then we can go home. Jay's reassurance always worked on me. He was a persistent one, but he'd always know what to say to make me woman up, as he would say. Although looking back on it, I almost feel angry at him. Angry that he led us into the situation that we were about to enter. But I can't be. I wasn't even the one who was most hurt. We finally arrived up the long, centered sidewalks that led to the vertical home and knocked on the door. The back wood door started to slowly open. Trick or treat, trick or... We tried to speak in unison, but my speech was stopped. Looking at this man who answered, he didn't look right. And not in a Halloween costume kind of way. His skin was pale and his black tuxedo didn't help contrast the skin even more. He seemed to be sweating bullets. He stared blankly at us through his emerald green eyes. Those damn eyes. I still remember exactly how they looked to this day. The pupil incredibly dilated and his eyes bloodshot. I pulled back my candy bag in slight apprehension, and tears started to well up in my eyes again. The man notices my scared state and finally speaks in a jittery rhythm. So kids, how was your Halloween? Sir, can you please just give us our candy? Jay responded, noticing my fear and trying to get us out of the situation. The man seemed to grow impatient, tapping his feet on the ground and saying with gritted teeth, "Just try to make some small talk with you kids." He pulled on his tux collar, sweating profusely. Then, I noticed around his collarbone area a patch of dried, rotten, fried flesh. Whatever was going on with it, it was sure wrong. It was so fucking wrong. At that thought, though, I felt a sting on the back of my neck. At first, I slapped the back of my neck, thinking it was some sort of insect, but I also heard a slap from Jay. Had we both gotten bit? That's when I looked behind me and saw two men towering over us. A tear was already down my face, and I slowly started to lose all power in my muscles and fell to the ground slowly. Then I fully knocked out. When I awoke, my glasses were off my face, everything was blurred, and I couldn't move. Couldn't tell if it was some sort of drugging or pure fear. In front of me was another body on the floor. It was my friend, Jay. I could recognize his dark hair and dark skin, but other than that, things were blurred beyond my comprehension. As I started to awake slightly more, I heard yelling coming from around me. "We told you to only grab one, you fucking idiot," a man yelled. "They both came to my door. What was I supposed to do? Kick one away?" The voice was recognizable. It was the man we just met in the doorway. "You're about to die anyways. Why don't we just put you in the sacrifice with them?" the man threatened. Sacrifice? What's happening? I wanted to cry, I wanted to speak, but I could barely move. I was stuck to the ground, seeing the blurred silhouettes of the two men standing slightly behind my friend. "Just get the job done, you fucking idiot," the man said. At that moment, the man seemed to put something in his hand up to my friend's face. My friend awoke in a loud gasp. And only noticed now that Jay was chained as the man from the front door picked them off the ground, his tall, lengthy figure barely holding them up. What happened?" Jay yelled with desperation in his voice. The man stayed silent, completely unfazed and ignoring his question. "Sir, please," Jay pleaded. "I'm sorry. Did we do something? We're very, very sorry." The desperation in Jay's voice, every word he was yelling rings in the back of my head every damn day. I couldn't see well enough to see if he was crying, but just from his voice I could tell he was. I tried my best to speak, but all I could muster up were mutters too quiet to hear Jay's yelling. My friend was being pulled away from me. I couldn't tell exactly where we were, some kind of forest from what I could hear and tell. Jay's screams became louder, but further away, and I could see the man dragging him by the chains he had him tied to into the darkness ahead of me. The screams stopped. Did something happen? I heard the rustling of chains in the distance. It was so quiet, and all I could hear was the sight of wildlife around me. Then I heard footsteps fastly approaching. Closer and closer, the dirt was being trampled. I saw dirt start to kick up near me when I saw the man from the front door run right past me, without my friend. And then I heard a scream that still haunts me every day. It was Jay. I couldn't see him, but I could hear him. His voice trembling and breaking as his scream grew louder, but it wasn't the only sound I heard. A guttural roar was let out. Whatever had just made that noise was surely no human. The roar grew in power before I heard a large crunch and a scream. Whooping in the air, more screaming. I couldn't see the thing, but I could hear the horror beyond the darkness that was until a couple of meters ahead of me, I could see a blurry red pile of mush in front of me, followed by something slowly walking up into the moonlight. To this day, I can't describe it. Not only could I not see it clearly in the first place, but even then it seemed indescribable. It was something furry and had almost a physique and it looked like a wolf, but much larger. Its eyes were glowing red and its teeth were also red, probably not naturally looking back on it. It seemed to have patches of fur that weren't all there, showing what seemed like thin, veiny skin on the inside. It then picked up the red, mushy pile and started swinging it around in its mouth like a dog playing with a toy, blood splattering everywhere. I felt the liquid splash onto my face and it dripped down into my eye, causing half of my vision to be colored red. It stung like hell, but at the moment I couldn't care less. My adrenaline was already running so high I could barely feel it. It was then that the monster dropped the mush and started slowly walking towards me. This is it, for sure. I'm done for. I barely even lived. I'm just a kid. It's not supposed to happen like this. It sniffed and sniffed as it got closer, coming slightly more into my blurred view. It kneeled down and growled viciously, only inches from my face. At that point, I could see its mouth pretty clearly. Blood was dripping from its teeth, and its entire mouth smelled like death. A death I was sure I was about to face. The creature backed away. "You've had your fix now. Get back. Get back," a man yelled. It was the man from earlier who shouted at the man from the door. A familiar voice then started shouting, "What the hell is wrong with you? Put her in all this." "Mom?" I finally made an audible noise, still on the ground, unmoving, but groaning as much as I could. "Oh my God," my mom said. "She's awake." Fuck. I heard footsteps towards me from behind, and I felt a sting once again on my neck. As I was slipping back into unconsciousness, I heard more yelling and screaming. "Do you realize what you've done?" my mom yelled. Relax. I'll tell you what you need to do, okay? I couldn't hear anymore, and my body was once again giving up. I was drifting further and further. Honey? My mom was once again speaking, but as I woke up, I noticed I was no longer in those woods. I was in my room. All the spookiness yesterday must have been a nightmare, huh? Mom? I pushed myself into her arms and held in for a close hug. Oh, sweetie, she reassured me. It was just all a dream, okay? But no. I backed off my mom a bit. My eye was still stinging, and later that day, I was told that my friend Jay had gone missing on his way home last night. Bullshit. I know I saw that day was real, and none of the people in this godforsaken town can tell me otherwise. I tried convincing everyone, tried convincing my mom, hoping to whatever God there is that she wasn't in on this. But even she started calling me crazy. Around the time I turned 18, the scars from this incident never healed. The attitude of everyone around me shifted, and only a month into my adulthood, my mom forced me into a mental hospital for a whole year. I saw things there, things I can't unsee, but I've gone on too long. If anyone is interested in that time in my life, I might make an update to this post, but ever since I got out 3 years ago, I left that town and never turned back. I feel like I can't trust anyone anymore, but I might as well try telling some internet strangers the real truth. I still don't know exactly what's going on in that town, but I know it's something sinister. I wonder if I should go back or not. Or if I did, whether or not they would even accept me back.